This is Mac OS Ken.
Expecting what Apple has said to expect, iPhone 15 news out of India, and where are your Buccaneers? It is Thursday, the 17th of August, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 20% off any SimpliSafe system when you sign up for a free month trial of Fast Protect monitoring at simplisafe.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. KeyBanc analyst Brandon Nispel says his firm's data is telling him that he should expect below average growth from or for Apple in the September quarter. Hardly a shocker. Thanks to tough compares for iPad and Mac, Apple itself said on the last earnings call that it expects below average growth in the September quarter. That's despite the company's expectation of growth for both iPhone and services. You know, I honestly started to wonder whether I imagined Apple saying all of that. I didn't. I've checked. Anyway, Apple 3.0 had KeyBanc analyst Brandon Nispel issuing a note this week wherein he said his data indicated below average growth for or from Apple for the September quarter. Based on 1.8 million credit card and debit card accounts to which he and his have access, the analyst says indexed spending on Apple was up 6% from June to July. While that doesn't sound bad, it does when you hear that the 3-year average from June to July has seen a rise of 18%. July is usually the strongest month of the quarter, according to the firm. Assuming that that's true again this year, their data is telling them that they should expect below average growth for the September quarter. Just like Apple did. Still, applause for doing their own math. The way Nispel and pals see it, with July showing worse than average hardware spend, guidance pointing to pressure on Mac and iPad, and uncertainty of iPhone growth from the 2.4% down in the June quarter, we are not seeing a case to be made for a positive surprise. At the same time, they're not off the shares. KeyBanc has an overweight rating on the Cupertino Company stock. Their 12-month price target on it is $200. Wednesday was a bit like a Radiohead song. No alarms and no surprises. A piece from Mac Rumors says, it looks like some model of iPhone 15 has turned up in regulatory filings in India. Last August, says the report, just a few weeks before the announcement of the iPhone 14 lineup, a single iPhone 14 model was spotted in the Bureau of Indian Standards, or BIS database, with the model number A2882. This turned out to be the standard iPhone 14 model built for other countries and regions. Give the globe one full turn, and we find something similar happening again. Mac Rumors says the site My Smart Price has spotted an Apple device with a model number that does not match any known iPhone. It does have a higher number than last year's, though, making this being an iPhone 15 seem likely. On the same day, a piece from Bloomberg said Foxconn has started production of iPhone 15 in India. Okay, that one's a tiny bit unusual, if not surprising. Just a couple of days ago, we talked here about expectations that this year's iPhones would start production in India and China simultaneously. Interestingly, while the piece indicates that production is underway on the subcontinent, Bloomberg indicates that production in India may still lag behind China. According to the report, a Foxconn Technology Group plant in Tamil Nadu is preparing to deliver the newest devices only weeks after they start shipping from factories in China, as the company seeks to swiftly increase the volume of new iPhones coming from India, people familiar with the matter said. Even if they do run behind China, if production is underway, it represents a significant milestone. A piece on the production from Mac Rumors says this is the first time that a new iPhone model has started mass production in India before it was announced by Apple. Last year's iPhone 14 models started production in India in late September. Bloomberg says the move is tied to Apple's desire to diversify its manufacturing away from China. The site sees that as something Apple would want to do, as tensions between Washington and Beijing make trade less predictable. No doubt that is true, though as we also discussed here a couple of days ago, producing iPhone in India lowers the cost for the buying public in India, which is finding itself drawn to premium and ultra-premium smartphones. In this particular case, what's good for Apple is good for India, is good for Apple is good for India. The Bloomberg piece has a senior analyst at Counterpoint Research saying Apple's increased production in India will lead to more of its supply chain moving to the country. While it's still early days for Apple in India, the analyst believes the government has a very clear ambition to move up the value chain in electronics manufacturing, and Apple's push certainly helps. Is it a trend or is it a blip? The boutique firm Consumer Intelligence Research Partners has tracked an apparent decline in iPhone storage upgrades in the June quarter. Apple 3.0 ran part of the note they wrote. The firm says it has long tracked how iPhone buyer spending is propelled by upgrades from base storage. While higher storage can increase the price by somewhere between $100 and $500 depending on capacity and model, people have been somewhere between willing and eager to pay. According to the firm, in prior quarters, the majority of buyers of most models opted for and paid the price for upgraded storage. This trend reversed in June 2023, when only about one-third of buyers upgraded storage. That was way down from the March quarter, when the firm says nearly 60% of buyers paid for more storage. It's also way off the June quarter of 2022, which saw 55% of new iPhone buyers pay more for more storage. Now, the part of the note posted doesn't speculate on why the change occurred, nor whether it'll continue, but I can't help wondering. It seems unlikely that people buying in the June quarter are power users. I mean, they're buying an iPhone that's somewhere between 6 months old and 9 months old, practically destined to be replaced on the market in 3 to 6 months. Come to think of it, that assumes that they were all buying some model of iPhone 14. There's no reason to assume that. These could be casual buyers, people who just need a new phone. They'd like an iPhone. At the same time, they'd like to save money. And who wouldn't? Hashtag in this economy. The 60% paying for more storage in the March quarter is kind of interesting. You'd think that they'd want to save money too, though a lot of those buyers were probably chasing the new iPhone high they couldn't get in the December quarter, thanks to how messed up production got late last year in China. As for the June quarter of 2022, the economy was better and we were still blowing money on electronics because we were still working from home and largely not leaving it. I guess what I'm wondering, will a better economy for the consumer mean a return to storage upgrades? For that, we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, CIRP says folks sticking with the base storage capacity in the June quarter likely did a number on iPhone's weighted average retail price in the States. The way the firm sees it, if 25% fewer iPhone buyers opted for a minimum $100 upgrade, that pushed down the average U.S. iPhone purchase price by at least $25 in a quarter where we saw an overall $40 decline. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Simply Safe. the right way to protect your home. One of my favorite parts of my Simply Safe system is something I don't think I've ever mentioned here before. When one of the doors opens, my Simply Safe system makes a friendly little noise. It's not a beep, it's not a chime, not sure what to call it exactly. For me, though, it is a lovely sound that lets me know that one of my loved ones has made it home. Of course, if it happened at 2 a.m, I'd know that something was wrong. It's a tiny thing, but I love it. And I love how simple and accessible a Simply Safe system is. You go to their site at simplysafe.com/macOSKen and pick out just the parts you need. Flood sensors, window sensors, security cameras, whatever components you need to keep your home safe. Then you set it up. Took me well under an hour to get my sensors, keypad, and base station up and running on my own. See how Simply Safe can protect your home. Right now, macOS Ken listeners get a special 20% off any Simply Safe system when you sign up for a free month trial of Fast Protect monitoring at simplysafe.com/macOSKen. This special offer is for a limited time only. SIMPLI. That's simplysafe.com/macOSKen. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives hit with one of those ideas on Wednesday that Apple watchers always seem to love. From the people who brought you Apple should or will buy Disney comes Apple should or will buy Disney property ESPN. Apple 3.0 ran part of the note he wrote. Quoting part of that, let's call out that Apple and Cook are well known to be opposed to big mergers and acquisitions, as the biggest deal Cupertino has ever done is the Beats deal for $3 billion plus in 2014. That said, the market is quickly changing, and Apple recognizes that in this streaming arms race, there is a closing window for the stalwart to acquire content and cement its footing in the live sports content arena. Is it? Does it? To his credit, Ives thinks Apple buying ESPN makes a lot more sense than Apple buying all of Disney. Quoting his note again, we believe Apple would be much more interested in the ESPN asset than Disney overall, as Cupertino is focused on a number of other key strategic initiatives, with an acquisition of the mouse not making a ton of sense in our view. That said, acquiring ESPN, $50 billion price tag likely, would make a ton of strategic sense. Gain valuable sports content, major TV rights across each of the major professional and college sports packages, and change the cross-selling opportunities and attractiveness of Apple TV looking ahead, while putting Apple on the sports map, globally speaking. Well, it does make more sense than buying theme parks and cruise ships. I am a long way from convinced, though. Mr. Ives has an outperform rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $230. News of new titles coming soon to Apple TV Plus. First, Cult of Mac has word of a new drama series hitting the Cupertino streamer. The Buccaneers is based on an unfinished work by Pulitzer Prize-winning author Edith Wharton. While she died before the work was complete, the piece says she left behind a detailed outline of how the story would unfold. And now it's been made for TV. Apple's description says a group of fun-loving young American girls explode. Oh, I'm sorry, there's more. A group of fun-loving young American girls explode into the tightly corseted London season of the 1870s, kicking off an Anglo-American culture clash as the land of the stiff upper lip is infiltrated by a refreshing disregard for centuries of tradition. Sent to secure husbands and titles, the Buccaneers' hearts are set on much more than that, and saying I do is just the beginning. The first 3 episodes of the 8-episode series hit Apple TV Plus on Wednesday, the 8th of November. They'll run one a week on following Wednesdays through the 13th of December. And finally today, before landing the Buccaneers, Apple TV Plus is set to welcome a sci-fi romance film straight out of Cannes. Apple Insider says the film Fingernails revolves around Anna, as she works for an institute that utilizes a machine that can determine whether or not 2 people are actually in love. To do that, it will study the makeup of a subject's fingernail by ripping it off. You know, stuff like that could be the reason people don't do a lot of sci-fi romance. Picked up at the Cannes Film Festival in September of 2022, Apple Insider says Fingernails will hit theaters and Apple TV Plus on Friday, the 3rd of November. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 20% off any SimpliSafe system when you sign up for a free month trial of Fast Protect monitoring at simplysafe.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.